Today I'm going to use this corgi to make a pincushion. I made this one a few years ago. My son bought me this little hedgehog succulent pot and I knew it would be just perfect for pins for a pincushion. So I made a little Sashiko top and that's what I've been using, but it's a little bit small. So now I'm going to use it for needles and I'm going to make this one for pins. The reason these are so good, these little succulent pots, is because they have a rim so that when you make your cushion to sit in there, you don't have to glue it in or anything. You're going to make the cushion quite firm, and once you put it in there, it'll sit in there and it won't come back out. One thing I'm going to do though before I start doing anything else is it does go into the head. The opening does go into the head. I'm not going to make my cushion, pin cushion, go all the way into there, so I'm just going to stuff that. This is some leftover batting because I make quilts all the time, and I'm just going to stuff that in there and fill that hole up with that before I even start doing anything else. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure the opening. I have a little ruler here. Let's see, we want to measure the inside, so that's about 2 inches, and the other way is going to be just under 2.5. When I do my Sashiko, I know that I've got to stay within those limits. I've marked the center of my cloth here, and I'm just going to draw an approximation of that on here using this little circle, which I think is a little bit more than 2 inches. So it'll be the right size one way, but on the sides I'll have to narrow it down a little bit. So I'm gonna do a little circle. Actually, it'll be this orientation, I guess. And then I think if I move this one down about 1/4 inch, just join them around. This line is going to be taken off later. This is just a rough line to make sure that you're sewing within where you need to be. It'll be a far from perfect shape when I've finished. Right, let me have a look. Is that one going to be? Yeah, that's just 2 inches. And that's just 2.5 inches. That'll work perfectly. I'll probably darken that a little bit when I'm off camera. My pattern is going to fit within there. So the next thing that you need to do is pick the Sashiko pattern that you want to use. So I'm going to do a very simple pattern in here, and that's what we'll draw on there next. I had a hard time deciding what pattern to do on here. It's such a small area. So I've got my cloth on this mat to make it a little bit easier to draw, and I'm just going to draw a freehand cloud. Be okay. I don't know whether you can tell or not, but I had a couple of attempts before at drawing this and wasn't happy, and so I just rubbed with my finger, made the marks fade so that you couldn't see them, and tried again. And so with this ceramic pencil, that's a really easy thing to do. So I think that'll look okay when I sew it, so I'm going to go ahead and start doing the Sashiko stitching. I won't be able to load quite as many stitches on my needle as I do usually with this, just because it's going around curves, so you don't get a good curve if you put too many stitches on. On the other hand, it's not going to take very long to do because it's such a simple and quick pattern. So I'll just continue sewing this, and when it's done I'll come back and show you the next step. I finished doing the Sashiko. I did my outline, and then I just did some echo stitching around on the inside, just as much as I wanted to do, really. I think this echo stitching in this pattern would actually be really good for mending jeans or something, for doing a repair, which, you know, Sashiko was originally started for mending clothes and and saving precious fabric. So once I've done that, you'll see I've sewn around there. I laid something on there, drew around it to make a circle. It doesn't have to be exact, and it doesn't have to be an exact size, but you want to use up most of your fabric. In this case, I used Sashiko thread, but you could use anything. Sashiko thread is nice and strong though, because this is to gather the fabric afterwards, because we're going to make it into a cushion. And when it's all gathered up, most of this Sashiko thread will actually be left, and I'll be able to use it again on some Sashiko. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to use bits of cut up batting to stuff my cushion with. But I want this area underneath to be flat rather than a lot of poking up bits. So I'm going to put this behind the pattern, and then I'm just going to pin that in place so I have a fairly flat surface at the top. Let me just put a couple of pins in there. This is just so it doesn't slide out of the way as I stuff it. All right, then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to start pulling on these threads a little bit. And what you're trying to do is you're going to start it up into a pouch. I've left the needle on ready to sew this together when I've gathered it up some. So you're trying to make it up into a pouch shape that you can start stuffing into a cushion. It's not going to be exact yet, but enough to get it going. And as you stuff it, you'll just keep on gathering. Okay, so I've got that started here. So obviously this isn't enough batting, but I'm going to start stuffing this in here. Yep, definitely need more. So I like to use batting for doing things like this, because when you make quilts, there's always the bits that you cut off the end that you just can never use, and so it's a good use for them rather than just wasting the fabric. Okay, so see that's making into a pouch there. So I'll get some more and I'll keep on going. When it's fully stuffed, I'll gather all these threads and put a stitch in to hold it. When I think there's enough, I'll try it in my little succulent pot and see how it looks. So I'll come back when I've got some of that done. So I've stuffed my cushion. I'm going to try it in here now and see if it works. So a little bit hard to get these in sometimes, because you do want them to be so firm. And I also want to try and keep the top fairly straight. And when I started putting it as well, I did look to see which was the long end. Remember, one end's 2.5 inches and the other's 2. So you want to make sure your orientation is right. And I'm just gonna, well, maybe I might have just a little bit too much stuffing in here. Let's see. But you can always just take it back out and do it again. No, that's going to be fine. Okay, so I'll take my pins out now that are holding it in place. So there's a few little creases around the edge there, but I'm going to work on that and smooth them out, make it all nice and even. And I think that will look pretty good. And you know, if you really felt like you needed to put some glue or something in there to hold it, but I think you can see that's pretty firmly in there. When I get that all smoothed out, that's going to look pretty good for my pins. So now I'll have 2 cute little pin cushions. All right, so I'll get that all smoothed out and it'll be good to go. There's my little corgi all finished. It'll be a good little pin cushion there. I hope you try something like that out. It's a really simple Sashiko project. If you like this, I have more ideas. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching.